Today, we are diving into a question that feels so incredibly modern, but is actually ancient. What is the point of it all? And you're going to see how our own search for meaning is actually part of a huge conversation, one that started 3,000 years ago.
So, have you ever had one of those days, or maybe one of those weeks, or months even, where you just look at everything you're doing, the job, the to-do lists, the hustle, and you just stop and think, what does any of this actually matter? If you've been there, you know how frustrating that feeling can be.
Well, if that sounds familiar, I've got some news for you. You are not alone. Not by a long shot. In fact, you're in some very, very old company. Believe it or not, this exact feeling was written down in startling detail thousands of years ago in the ancient Near East. Okay, let's get into it. For our first piece of evidence, we're going to head way back in time to Mesopotamia, around the year 1000 BC, to look at this absolutely fascinating and honestly kind of funny text called the Dialogue of Pessimism. So what exactly is this thing? Well, it's an ancient text written in Akkadian, which is this cool wedge-shaped writing called cuneiform. It's basically a script of a conversation between a master and his slave. And it's this amazing example of what scholars call wisdom literature. You know, stuff that was written to really make you think and question the big stuff. Now, the structure here is so simple, and that's what makes it hit so hard. It's this repetitive four-step dance. First, the master says he's going to do something. Then, the slave chimes in with all the great reasons to do it. But then, the master's like, nah, on second thought, and immediately, without skipping a beat, the slave rattles off all the reasons why it's a terrible idea. This just keeps happening over and over for pretty much every human activity you can think of. And this example about love just shows you how it works perfectly. The master's like, I'm going to make love to a woman. The slave says, great idea. It helps you forget your sorrows. Then the master goes, you know what? Never mind. And the slave just flips a switch. Good call. A woman is like a sharp dagger to your throat. Whoa. And they do this for everything. Eating a fancy meal, going hunting, even starting a rebellion. For every single reason for something, there's an equally good reason against it. All right, let's hop over to our next piece of evidence and see this idea evolve. We're going to jump forward a few hundred years and move over to ancient Israel, to a book in the Hebrew Bible that a lot of us have heard of, but maybe haven't really wrestled with, the book of Ecclesiastes. This is the book's famous, haunting first line. But that word vanity, it doesn't just mean thinking you look good. The original Hebrew word is hebel, and it's so much richer than that. Think of it like smoke or a vapor or your breath on a cold day. It's there 1 second and gone the next. It means something that's fleeting, temporary, and ultimately kind of absurd. Just like the master in that Mesopotamian dialogue, the writer of Ecclesiastes, who calls himself the preacher, goes on this epic quest for meaning. And he tries everything. He studies to become the wisest man alive, he throws huge parties, he builds palaces and gardens, he works his fingers to the bone. But every single time he hits the same wall. He realizes that death comes for everyone. The smart guy, the fool, the good person, the bad person. So in the end, every single thing we do is ultimately Hebel. It's all just smoke. So let's just pause here for a second, because this is the crucial link. We have two powerful voices from two totally different ancient cultures coming to the exact same mind-blowing conclusion. They've looked at everything society says should make you happy. Money, wisdom, fun, hard work, and they've both basically said, nope, it's a dead end. So if everything is meaningless, then what, right? What are you supposed to do? Just curl up and give up? Well, this is where both of these ancient traditions take a hard turn towards an answer that is so unexpected and so powerful. After page of gloom, Ecclesiastes just pivots. The preacher's logic is basically this. Look, since you can't control the grand outcome of life and death, the only sane thing to do is to embrace the small, good things right in front of you. Enjoy your food. Enjoy a glass of wine. Enjoy the person you love. Because that, he says, is your portion. It's the slice of goodness you're given in this fleeting life. But here is where things get really wild. This advice, it wasn't new. Centuries, we're talking hundreds of years before Ecclesiastes was even a thought. Another Mesopotamian story, the famous Epic of Gilgamesh, gave almost the exact same advice. When the hero Gilgamesh fails to find immortality, he's told to just stop chasing the impossible and embrace being human. And this is the moment that should just give you goosebumps. Just look at this, side by side. Gilgamesh says, fill your belly. Ecclesiastes says, eat your bread with joy.
Gilgamesh, day and night make merry. Ecclesiastes, drink your wine with the merry heart. Make your wife happy becomes enjoy life with the wife you love. It is the same answer echoing across different cultures, different languages, different centuries. The solution to that big, scary feeling of meaninglessness isn't some grand philosophy. It's the simple joy of being alive right now.
But hold on, is it really just that simple? Just eat, drink, and be merry? You probably guessed it. The story's a little more complicated than a simple Carpe Diem bumper sticker. Scholars have been arguing about what these texts really mean for a long, long time. Let's go back to the dialogue of pessimism for a second. Is it really just about how pointless everything is? Well, there are a few ways to read it. One idea is that it's pure absurdism, that life is so futile, the only logical choice is, well, not to exist. Another is that it's a brilliant piece of social satire, where the super smart slave is just cleverly making fun of his rich, indecisive master. But there's a third, deeper idea, a theological one. Maybe life only looks meaningless from down here because the gods have a plan that's just too big for our tiny human minds to see. And that third idea gets a lot of support from the dialogue's final, incredible lines. The master is at his lowest point, even talking about ending his own life. And the slave hits him with this question. It's basically saying, you're just a person. You can't see everything, so how can you possibly know the ultimate truth about anything? It's a profound statement about the limits of what we can know. And guess what? Ecclesiastes does something pretty similar. After all the doubt, all the cynicism, and the call to just enjoy life, bam! A different narrator's voice jumps in at the very end and adds a final thought. This conclusion sort of wraps everything up in a neat bow. It says the ultimate point isn't just to eat and drink. The whole duty of a person is to live with reverence for God and follow his ways. So that simple joy, it's real, but it's meant to exist inside a bigger picture of faith. So what's the big takeaway here? Why are we still so fascinated by this deep conversation that our ancestors were having 3,000 years ago? What does it have to do with us? Well, I think the answer is actually pretty straightforward. For 3,000 years, just think about that number. We've been wrestling with the exact same stuff, that deep, desperate need for our lives to have a point, fighting against the stone-cold fact that we're all going to die. These ancient writings are proof of that timeless human struggle. What these stories really show us is a profound shared humanity that just cuts right through time. It doesn't matter if you were in ancient Mesopotamia or ancient Israel, people were asking the same questions we ask ourselves in the mirror. Is there any justice? What's my place in this universe? And how do I live a good life when the world feels so chaotic? That shared struggle is a direct line connecting us to them. The things they were grappling with, that feeling that it's all just smoke, that desperate search for something solid to stand on, those are our struggles too. We just have different backdrops. So yeah, it seems the problems are truly timeless. And that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. If our biggest existential problems haven't really changed in 3 millennia, could it be that the answers they found, finding real joy in the simple, present things, and framing it all within a sense of awe for something bigger than ourselves, are also timeless? Maybe the best answer we have is the one we've had all along.